Previously on Higurashi when they cry Kai, Chapter 8.
聞こえる？私は高野よ。あんたたちの最上位の上司よ。聞きなさい。鬼もいないし神様もいないわ。もしいるなら戦いなさい。神などその座から引きずり下ろしてやるのよ。ヒバリとウグイスは合流して戦力を立て直しなさい。大鳥は白鷺の残存と合流。敵は山頂付近の営林署の資材小屋あたりを本拠地にしている模様。交渉を取られてる。こちらの動きが筒抜けのはず。奇襲はあって当たり前よ。差し違えてでも倒しなさい。
はい。RPG を観測手が拾った。撃たせるな。
この距離で外すと。
Shion and Kasai were far beyond that straight road. They were in the enemy's blind spot on the other side of the hill, on top of an abandoned car. Shion was on her knees, checking the Mountain Dogs' movements with a pair of military-grade, high-powered binoculars. Kasai was lying on top of the car with a sniper rifle in his hands. Shion figured this would be where the Mountain Dogs would place their ambush, so the only way for them to beat the dogs was to snipe at them. Step on it! Shoot their tires! The Mountain Dogs could tell they were in a predicament. Tontaki was capable of hitting his targets easily, even on such a bad road. Furthermore, they were in a bulletproof limousine, while the Mountain Dogs were in a regular van. The van of which, incidentally, was facing the limousine in pursuit. All of his shots had just been warning ones. Unless the Mountain Dogs called off the chase, Tomotaki would start shooting at them soon enough. When Okinogi hit the ground behind Mion, a heavy rain suddenly began to fall. Choppa, choppa, choppa! And just as it did, a massive helicopter appeared from the other side of the mountain. The helicopter's rotor stirred up in the air and blew away the raindrops in a tornado. The rotor sounded much like a tornado, too. A rope uncoiled from the rear of the helicopter, and soldiers came sliding down it, one after another. The onlookers were stunned for a moment before realizing what they were seeing. It was the Bloodhounds. The Bloodhounds that Tomotaki had called in! He's saying you're done!
まだよ。もうくじけるの？あなたも R が生きているのを見たでしょ？今日の一日がおかしくなったのは R が死んだなんて噂が流れたからよ。でも R は生きていた。今日の一日はなかったことになるのよ。緊急マニュアルはまだ生きているわ。女王感染者が生きている以上、改めて殺せばそこから48時間の緊急マニュアル執行可能な時間が。
サンサ、緊急マニュアルがどうこうって次元じゃもうないんですよ。もう東京は女王感染者とか、それが死んだら48時間とか、終末作戦は完全に失敗しました。我々のクライアントはすでに証拠の隠滅に走り回っているでしょう。
Undoubtedly.
我々の役目ももうおしまいですが、山犬なんて面白い舞台を10年ほど指揮させてもらいました。貴重な経験ができましたが、それも今日でおしまいです。そしてサンサ、あんたの役割ももうおしまいです。
何よそれ。私の役割。何のことよ。インチキスクラップなんかじゃない。これは真実なのよ。全部真実。おじいちゃんが調べて、私が調べて、そして書き上げてきた真実の研究結果なのよ。だってみんな信じてくれた。だからあんな立派な研究所を作ってくれたのよ。 してくれたから。みんなそう野村さんだって。だからこそ私に声をかけてくれたのよ。
Nomura got in touch with you because you were a useful tool.
この研究の進化を分かってくれるクライアントはきっと他にだっているわ。だってこの研究は人類の未来の可能性。
Okunogi got fed up and kicked me. I didn't weigh much, so I fell backwards and became soaked in the muddy water. Okunogi walked over and looked down at me.
幸いなことに東京のクライアントもそしてうちらも。おい。
One of the mountain dogs handed a gun to Okunogi. Okunogi checked the cylinder and then threw it over to me.
何よこれ。
サンサー、そいつで自分の頭ぶち抜いてくれませんか。
In that moment, Hanyu glared at me adamantly.
さあ撃て。人の子よ。人の世の押し付けずには済まぬ罪を放て。それを受け止めてやる。
分かったわ。分かったなら死ね。
The club members must have thought I was joking or bluffing. They didn't think that I would actually shoot. There was a noise like something exploding. In a world where time became as sticky as syrup, we saw it happen. The silver bullet hitting an invisible wall in front of Hanyu, as though the wall was protecting her. The bullet wanted to pierce Hanyu's chest, but it couldn't reach its goal.
生きてていいの。私は生きてていいの。みんながお前が死ねば丸く収まるって私に言うよ。それでもジローさん、それでも私は。
世界は君を許さないかもしれない。でもそれが何だってんだい。僕が君を許すよ。だから生きよう。死ぬことは罪の償いにはならない。生きて償い、世界に許しを請おう。そしてやり直すんだ。そうしたらきっと思い出せる。君が本当はどんな人で、どんな風な笑顔を浮かべていたかをね。
After a while, Takano was taken to the Yuri Institute in handcuffs. She was, however, handcuffed with her hands in front of her. She was holding the scrapbook. Tontake cleaned the mud off of it.
あれだけ苦労した旅だったのです。その程度の奇跡じゃちょっと足りない気もしますですよ。十分ですよ。こんな奇跡、僕の身には十分すぎて。
Rika smiled at Hanyu one more time and passed to her what was in her right hand. Hanyu felt something cold and hard. What was it? Hanyu slowly opened her hand and looked at it. It was the bullet Takano had fired. This was the proof of their miracle. It was the proof that Hanyu could exist there. It was the proof that they could be together, forever and ever. And now the conclusion. Greetings, my name is Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Higurashi when You Cry Kai Chapter 8. I don't know about you guys, but I'm quite eager to see all the spoils of war that I have acquired for myself just now that I've finally taken out the enemy commander once and for all. At least by all appearances. I don't know what her backers are going to do exactly just yet, but hopefully, if they do decide to do something, we'll have a means to combat them, too. Anyway, let's not waste any more time, shall we? Were they testing the speakers? It was still bright outside, but there was music playing already. The cheap, dubbed BGM collection of festival music could be heard from the Furuta shrine in the distance. It sounded so exciting to her. This is what she had wanted to join in all this time. Rika held her hand. Let's go together. Let's go to the Watanagashi festival. All of us. Together. Yeah. They had almost too much energy left. It had been a long day, and many things had happened, but they still had the energy to go to the festival. It was, after all, the special day of Watanagashi. The curse of Oishiro-sama had been lifted, and no tragedy would ever occur again. It was the first peaceful Watanagashi, the first one without tragedy since the dam conflict. The villagers had noticed that the phone lines were disconnected during the day, but it was fixed so quickly that they didn't pay much attention. They heard the self-defense force helicopter near the mountains, but rumor had it that they came to the wrong place for their training. The elderly villagers laughed and said that the young men of the National Defense Force need to pay more attention. That they do. Some people say the self-defense force even came to the Irie clinic. The villagers didn't even get suspicious about that. They assumed that the Irie clinic had started doing physical checkups for the SDF. There were pieces of broken glass on the roadside near the village border, as if there was an accident. Some people wondered how anyone could have had an accident when there was no obstruction on the road. The elderly people said to each other that they always had to drive carefully, even on a familiar road. But it looked only like a trace of a normal accident, so they didn't get suspicious. The rest was a ghost story. The villagers heard an extra firework to signal the festival taking place. It wasn't an echo. The people in charge of the fireworks were puzzled. But when Rika said Oishiro-sama must have shot the extra firework, the villagers simply believed that was true. Thanks, Okanogi! It was the night of Watanagashi, the biggest festival of the year. The villagers forgot their worries and enjoyed themselves. The club members were doing great as usual. They were doing so great that they were all taken to the main tent and yelled at by the mayor. That was a normal Watanagashi night for the villagers. But there was one thing that was very different. The girls fought for an unimaginably long time in many different worlds for the sake of this night. However, nobody would ever know that. Oh. There was another big change, too. Rika Furuta said she wants to go to a pool in the summer. It's unusual for her to say she wants to do something. She wants to see the stars. She wants to go on a camping trip. She wants to look at the sunflowers. Well, you could have looked at sunflowers even during this whole mess, to be fair. She wants to make the school into a haunted house, etc. Unless she means in person, in which case, yeah, I could definitely understand why she'd want to go look at sunflowers. There are so many things she wants to do over the summer break. Right. Rika Furude, for the first time, is making plans for after June 1983. Because this is the first summer break she's going to experience after 100 years of repeating the same life. She will now experience an all-new summer vacation. Who would stop her from getting excited about that? I don't know. Nomura, maybe? Rika Furude is looking forward to waking up before Satoko to rip the page off the calendar at the end of June. Rika Furude's infinite future has begun. There are infinite possibilities, yet she can only make one choice. But that's why it's a great world. Let's talk for a moment about the people who fought with Rika Furude. Minon Sonozaki has vowed to study hard so she can continue her education after the summer break. According to Keiichi, even that may not be enough time for her. However, how can the legendary club leader, Mion Sonozaki, fail an entrance exam? Sheer dumb luck? She will more than likely find a way to get into the school she wants to go to. Well, I'm sure she could also use her family name to get a little pressure applied if need be. Insert Uishi laugh here. Hopefully it isn't an illegal one. They read my mind. Anyhow, she's looking forward to enjoying her final summer break, so she has tons of plans. The club members can't get away from Mion, even during the summer. Once you're involved with her, she'll always find a way to get at you. Out of context, that sounds scary. No matter how much you want to be alone, you'll never go back to spending a boring summer by yourself. I repeat. Keiichi Maebara has been asked by Mion and Chi-sensei to be their next class president. And now you've moved up to class president. You are gonna go far in life, you dumb bastard. I'm proud of you. He was also asked to be the next club leader, too. But he declined immediately. Keiichi likes the club because Mion runs it. He continues saying that it's Mion's club until she got mad. Keiichi can't understand why she's so angry. Well, Keiichi wouldn't be Keiichi if he wasn't dense, and that is just the truest thing that's ever been said ever. But honestly, that's part of his charm. So things are rather lively around him again today. His good name continues to spread, even in Okinomiya. Reina Ryugu is growing more energetic every day too. Satoko, Rika, and Hanyu spend every day in fear of being abducted by her. I don't know. That sounds scary, but when I think about it, I'm pretty sure that it's not as bad as they're making it out to be. I mean, why would you be scared of this thing right here? Does that look like the face of something terrifying to you? And yes, I know I am saying that ironically, remembering everything that happened in chapter 1. Still, she's been acting more mature lately. She takes care of her younger classmates, and she's almost like a mother figure to the class. She's like a mother to all the club members too. After hearing that, Keiichi said he'd be a father for the class. As usual, Reina thought about that too much, and blushed. Satoko Hojo is as lively as ever. She used up most of her traps on the mountain during the battle with the mountain dogs, so she's setting up new ones for the next event. Rumor has it that some members of the Bloodhounds were so impressed with her trap techniques that they asked her for some lessons. Look at that! Training the current gen and possibly next generation of Special Forces elites. Screw Keishi's career aspects. You're the one who's going very far in life and at a very early age to boot, Satoko. There's supposed to be a training area near Mount Fuji, and they asked her to set up her traps there. That's not a very good idea. Well, hey, it's their funeral. I mean, if they can't survive her traps, then really, what right do they have to call themselves a Special Forces Commando unit, huh? The sea of trees really will become a forest of no return. Either way, Satoko keeps saying how she wants to fight against the Bloodhounds next. She's invincible. Also, she's become a great cook. And she's become a great cook! That's because Hanyu has been teaching her. According to Hanyu, Satoko is a quick learner, as compared to Rika. Satoko's dream is to master fried chicken, which is her brother's favorite, and welcome home with it. Fried chicken does sound pretty good right about now, not gonna lie. I'm the only one who knows this. But her dream may come true very soon. If by that you mean poor old Satoshi's gonna wake his sorry ass up in a non-crazed state and come back home, I will be very pleased to hear that. As for her brother, Satoshi Hojo has yet to return home. His condition is unchanged. Fuck. If there has been any change, it's in Shion Sonozaki. She goes to the clinic on her days off. Nobody knows why she goes there, but she seems to be very happy, so nobody pays much attention to it. Oh, you haven't told anybody why you come here yet? Not even Satoko? Mion has teased Shion by saying that maybe she's planning on getting implants, but Shion just smiles. Also, for whatever reason, she's been visiting her relatives' clothes shop and buying up all kinds of men's clothing. You're not playing dress up with Satoshi while he's just sitting on a bed, are you? Lately, she's even started buying more than just men's clothing, but why is she so excited when she visits a clinic with a maid outfit that's not in her size? Either this is some kind of agreement that she's made with the good old head of the clinic in order to ensure visitation rights on Satoshi, or she's doing all kinds of weird and possibly kinky shit in Satoshi's room. Either way, it raises some eyebrows. The truth is shrouded in mystery. Maybe it's for the best we don't know the answer to this mystery. The biggest change is probably that Shion babies Satoko nowadays. Oh, what, she wasn't doing that before? Well, at the beginning of this chapter, anyway, is what I mean. She tries to make Satoko call her Nini, which only annoys Satoko. Kyosuke Iri has two jobs now. On one hand, he is a respected doctor, and on the other hand, he is an evangelist. He's an evangelist for maids. The Iri clinic was supposed to be closed, but the villagers plead with the authorities not to shut it down. While Iri isn't originally from the village, he and everyone else feel that he's one of the villagers now. He's an indispensable part of village life. The conservative attitude toward Hinamizawa syndrome is gone, and now it's being researched very proactively. Hell yeah! The syndrome is being researched so passionately that, hopefully in the near future, all the victims of this disease will be freed for good. Also, later on, Iri will publish an advanced article about the influence of the brain on human behavior, which will surprise people in the medical world. I won't go into the details here, but it will talk about how one should hate the sins instead of the sinner. The diseased Hifumi Takano and Mio Takano's names will be mentioned in that article. Jiro Tomitaki still visits Hinamizawa every season. He is still known as the fighting, traveling photographer, and he continues to walk around the village looking for good picture spots. However, he isn't seen in the village as much as before. His bicycle is always parked around the back of the clinic, so maybe he spends a lot of time there. Maybe because a certain someone is getting quote-unquote treatment here. Some villagers say maybe he's sick and being treated, but his bright smile proves they are wrong. Mio Takano hasn't been seen since that day. Nobody knows where she has gone. But obviously, Tomitaki isn't worried, so she must be doing fine. She'll probably show up one day out of nowhere and start telling ghost stories to scare some kids. Who needs ghost stories when she could just simply give her a factual account of her almost territorially genociding an entire village of people? That in itself could probably be a good horror story to the kids. It was for me for a while. As for Mamoru Akasaka, what happened to him was pretty funny. I can't wait to hear this. His wife and daughter followed him in secret. Oh? They pretended to run into him at the festival. Well, holy shit! His daughter looks like Rika in that Angel Mort outfit. And yes, I know what his daughter actually looks like. I remember. I'm just joking. Rika called him Papa, so things grew complicated all of a sudden. Rika, you troll. Akasaka's wife smiled, but she choked his neck with her braided hair. Her arms were folded, but her braid moved like a tail. Prehensile hair! Squeeze. She tortured a man who destroyed a special forces unit without even using a weapon. Akasaka, I got a serious question for you. Why didn't you bring your wife along with you? If you had a feeling you're going to get into a fight, if she's this talented. Rika continued to tease him, making the situation even worse. However, Akasaka's family liked Hinamizawa, and they said they wanted to come back. Probably because they're all infected and gotta be near the Queen Carrier, am I right? Of course I'm right. I'm always right, even when I'm wrong. Akasaka's daughter and Rika grew so close that they seemed like sisters. Oh hey, you got a Sprite! Ushi, how you doing? Kurado Ushi has gone back into playing Mahjong. For whatever reason, Akane Sonozaki has joined his table too. And there's rumors a riot squad almost got dispatched to the Mahjong parlor one time. They must be fantastic matches indeed. His colleagues say Ushi has calmed down quite a bit. It's probably because he has reached closure within himself. But his colleagues know nothing about that. He's planning to move to Hokkaido when he retires, but he wants to come back every summer. His bright second life is waiting for him. Tatsuyoshi Kasai hasn't changed much compared to the others. To some people, this is a life-changing event, but for Kasai, it was just another episode added to his tales of heroics. Considering this guy's career, I can believe it. According to Kasai, this incident was just a little bigger than usual. That just makes me curious as to what kind of hijinks you regularly got up to before this whole shit. If you're not just selling this by saying that this whole fiasco was just a little bigger than the usual shtick you used to deal with. Tell me tales of your heroics, man. You got me curious now. If it was just a little unusual, then what in the world would be needed to impress him? Nuclear war, maybe? Shion insists that he will tell her, but Kasai only tells her that that's a secret. Also, he regretted exposing that part of his past. Shion keeps begging him to tell her all about it, but he simply ignores her. Let me talk about myself, too. I, Hanyu, am doing great in my new life as Hanyu Furude. I'm finally getting better at playing games, and now I'm taking the role of the club's dark horse, a position formerly reserved for Keiichi Maebara. Poor Keiichi, he is no longer the coolest looking horse in the block. I have a bad habit of believing everything I hear, so Mia and the others always tell me some strange things. You bastards. Thanks to that, I'm getting tougher, to put it in a good way. Translation, I'm growing less gullible. Shrewd, to put it in a bad one. But then, I need to, otherwise I wouldn't survive in this club. I'm going to continue to learn a lot of stuff through these club activities, so I can live in this human world. Sunday, June 19th, 1983. Night falls on my longest day of the past 1,000 years. The club members are having a blast. A lot of people are here. The stall vendors are still doing business. The speakers are blaring rough, yet exciting festival music. I've known all of these, but how wonderful it is to actually feel and hear them in person. I thought I knew. I thought I knew, because I've been following and watching them. But that was completely different. I knew of it, but this is the first time I've actually experienced it. We had a takoyaki eating contest. There was no octopus in it, but it was still very tasty. We had a shaved ice eating contest. I would have enjoyed the shaved ice if I had eaten it more slowly. I bought a candied apple for the first time. Everyone took a bite from it. It was tasty, and it was fun. We played a shooting game. I didn't know how difficult it would be to shoot a target, but it was fun too. Also, we played a shady lottery game. It was one of those things where you pulled a string and got a prize. Nobody got a good prize. We all complained about it to the vendor. That too was just so much fun. I don't know, I never had fun complaining about anything before in my life. Then it was time for the dedication dance. Of course, we got there early. Well, then again, complaining about something unironically. Of course, we got there early, so we commandeered the best seats. I snuck out and stood where I was told to. I could see better than the other club members. This was the spot where the object of worship sat. This was where I was supposed to be during the ritual dance. No, this is where I thought I had to be. But seeing the dance from that spot wasn't fun. Therefore, I returned to where I was, and sat with everyone else. They saved me a spot. Everyone rubbed my head while asking me where I went. I apologized by saying, "Ow, ow." That made me very happy. The dog is happy! I watched the performance in the crowd of people. It was the best dance I've witnessed in the past 1,000 years. I couldn't keep either my happiness or my tears from flowing out. After the dance was over, a handful of cotton was passed around to all the villagers. We let the cotton absorb all the filth and sins of the past year and washed it down the stream. Cotton is cotton. Obviously, it's not human. We use cotton instead of a human, so that nobody is sad. In other words, this is the way to purify sins without making anyone suffer.
はい、これ羽生ちゃんの綿だよ。やり方わかる？わかりますのです。こうしてポンポンしてから流すのですよ。はんはん。
The girl who gave me the cotton took the letter I from her name during the last year's Higurashi and washed it down the stream. By doing so, she was freed from her suffering and began a new life. We drifted our sins down the stream. It's not the same as pushing our sins onto the cotton. Instead, we wash away our own sins and forgive ourselves. We forgive each other, we help each other, and that's how we create our own story. I put my cotton in the stream gently. The cotton went down the stream into the world where sins are cleansed. I let my bare feet soak in the clear stream as I watched the long, long line of cotton flowing down the stream in the dark, surrounded by people sending their cotton flowing down the wondrous stream. This is a complete world where all the fragments were put together. This is an ideal world. What else is there? What else do you need? Hanyu Furude, still once more. Because we can be even happier than this. We can be happier if we wish to be. Not a long time from now, but in the near future. And when is it? I told you, it's in the near future. We will be happy then, too. See? Everyone is entitled to happiness. The difficult part is accepting that. Everyone is entitled to happiness. The difficult part is fulfilling that. I too am entitled to happiness, damn it. Because from now on, I'm going to live a much, much happier life. I'm not going to compromise with just this. We retrieve all the happiness that we missed. 100 years worth for me, 1,000 years worth for you. A report on the Ch.8 of the Erie Institute proposal. Regarding the Ch.8 on the Erie Institute, background, one response... Okay, I'm not going to try to speed read this. I'd appreciate if they'd slow this down a little bit more, because even I wasn't able to read everything in that whole thing. I have to go back and read this after I'm done recording it. Okay, for a second there, I thought it froze or something. Scenario jump mode has been unlocked. This game features... Okay, so same as usual. Got it. Tips reading room has been unlocked. I didn't get any tips, though. What's there to read? The staff room has been unlocked. This is thank you message person in the game. So we got in our staff room thing. Perfect. I was wondering if there'd be one more of those. You have received a new tip. The Forbidden Treasure. Onigari no Ryu. Ryu? What the hell is that? Okay, so I guess we got one tip from this whole chapter. So, let's see what this is before moving on to the staff room thing, shall we? Tip, 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 tip. Tip. The Forbidden Treasure. The Forbidden Treasure. Onigari no Ryuo. It's the most valuable asset of the Fruity Shrine that's kept in the ritual storehouse. In ancient times, when this place was a chaotic world of both humans and demons, this precious sword defeated the demon god. However, nobody has seen it for 1,000 years. According to the legend, it is sealed in a statue dedicated to Orishiro-sama in the ritual storehouse. Because of its structure, as long as the belief in Orishiro-sama continues, it will remain a forbidden tool, forever sealed away. Also, it is only mentioned in the forbidden scrolls of the Furuti Shrine. Therefore, only a handful of the Furuti family heads have ever known about its existence. According to several of these forbidden scrolls, the sword is shaped like a willow branch. There are some ink paintings of the sword. Where did I get ice? Made by a few Furuti heads, but none of them match that description. That means they drew those pictures from their imagination. The legend says there was a girl named Uka who received a divine message that commanded her to defeat the demon god. However, neither the swords of humans or demons could conquer the demon god. It would require a blade that was neither a human sword nor a demon sword. Only a sword that mixes human and demon qualities could defeat the demon god. It has been said repeatedly that the ancestors of Hinazawa are half demon and half human. Uka Furude, dates unknown, is said to be the first person whose blood was mixed in that way. This description is what conveys that. It's the first person, so Hanyu's daughter? Heaven gave Uka a precious sword. The precious sword was shaped like a willow branch. Its tip split 3 ways, which symbolized heaven, earth, and people in unity. It also symbolizes the harmony between heaven, demons, and humans. Uka headed to the swamp where the demon god hid and defeated him with this treasured sword. Each forbidden scroll describes how she defeated the demon god differently. Some say she disciplined him. Some say he ran away. Some say he surrendered. What happened to the demon god afterwards is unclear too. The oldest scroll says the precious sword destroyed the demon god's horn, but other books don't mention that. The precious sword that defeated the demon god was then enshrined, and was named Onigari no Ryuo. Ouka sealed this precious sword in the deepest place of the shrine to hide its existence forever. Even if it was created to slay the demon god, the sword that didn't belong in this world anymore, and it shouldn't exist on the face of the earth. Some said that was why it was removed from the human world. But some said Ouka was a daughter of the demon god, and that she wanted to banish the sword that killed her mother. The ancient cult of Orishiro-sama suggested Orishiro-sama was this demon god. The source of chaos, the source of all that was evil, and the source of all friction. To prevent the demon god from returning to the human world through worship and comfort is the root of that ancient cult. This may be a type of cult devoted to an evil god. This idea that it's not worship for protection, but to stave off a curse links slightly to the modern worship of Orishiro-sama, but seems slightly distant from the modern worship that asks for Orishiro-sama's blessings and sees them as a god of marriage and good relationships. It fosters the argument that humans are good by nature, saying that all discord is the work of Orishiro-sama, and there are no demons in the world of man. After that, the legend continues on to what we know today, the harmony of humans and demons. But in this era, all the scrolls on the origin of the belief in Orishiro-sama and the scrolls of the matriarch of the Furuti family have been sealed due to being forbidden. That happened probably because the new image of Orishiro-sama, that of a loving and affectionate god, and the ancient image of Orishiro-sama, the source of all evil, didn't match. It became too difficult to explain the faith's doctrine. Also, if one believes the forbidden scrolls, the Furuti family was descended from one who killed her own mother. That would mean their blood was cursed. If all of that is true, And today's faith is very different from the one that was started by the matriarch. One of the leaders of the Fruity family from hundreds of years ago wrote this: "The Onigiri no Ryuo, the legendary precious sword, is the symbol of both the Fruity family and the sins of the human world. It was an era where people pushed the source of their evil onto others, and he could only purify their sins by killing one another. The matriarch, one, took in the root of all evil herself and let her child murder her. That was how this place was freed from the chaos. One, the matriarch usually means Uka Furude, but sometimes it means her mother. The notion that the matriarch was the demon god was a taboo among the Furude family. However, obviously some leaders interpreted it that way. When the Furude family, or when the world of man commits the foolish act of seeking to blame others and tries to turn the world to the world of demons, that is when faith will disappear and the statue's head will shatter. That's when the Onigiri no Ryuo will reappear to us. This second coming will once again revive the memory of the Furude family's forgotten sins. Is the demon god a fictional legend? Or someone who actually existed? In some rare cases, babies were born with horns, and they were called children of the demon god. Descendants of the Furude family who will read this. The myths passed down by Forbidden Scrolls are numerous, and their content vastly differs. But don't get caught up in the smoke. No matter how different all these scrolls are, there is one thing they all want to convey. Search the heart of Uka Furude, the one who sealed the Onigiri no Ryu forever. That is the fate that all the Furude family leaders must understand. Interesting. I'm not exactly sure I completely understand what I just read here. Probably need to wait a minute. What's this? The fuck? What the hell happened to the rest of my extras? Okay, so I reloaded my save and went through the ending again, and it looks like that seems to have fixed whatever the hell happened. I guess going through that tip somehow resetted my progress? I'm not sure why. Probably some kind of glitch. So, I guess all that's left now is the staff room. Okay, Ryukishi. What do you got to say to me before I close things off? Hello, this is Ryukishi07. Thank you for playing Matsuri Bayashi. No. Thank you very much for playing Higurashi, When They Cry, until the end. Matsuri Bayashi is, in a way, the solution episode for the situation with Takano and the kids starting from halfway through Minagoroshi. How can they defeat Takano's conspiracy? How can they reach their ideal ending? I wrote this episode as a duel between you, the reader, and me, the writer. So if you think you create a better resolution, world, than my Matsuri Bayashi, that means you defeated Ryukishi07 in this duel. I, Ryukishi07, have provided two resolutions. One is how to fight against Takano. First, here's a hint from the Minagoroshi chapter. You find out about Takano's conspiracy, which relies on Emergency Manual 34. Next, Here are hints from the Watanagashi and Mikashi chapters. It has been 48 hours after Rika's death, yet the village is peaceful. Yeah, you're right. If you put those things together, obviously the basis of the emergency manual which Hifumi Takano wrote, that everyone will develop terminal symptoms within 48 hours, isn't true. So it would seem. When you put these two together, you can realize that if Rika's body was discovered 48 hours after her death, then it's possible to prevent the final operation. In the Matsuri Bayashi chapter, I wrote about an attacking side and a defending side like a novel. If I were simply to write about the resolution, all I had to write was for Urushi to announce that Rika had died at least 48 hours ago, and Takano's conspiracy would fall apart once the news reached Tokyo. This is a rather easy resolution, like a puzzle, so I'm sure many of you got this right. The other resolution was the ideal ending for this world. To answer this, I have to explain the worldview of this story first. There are hints all over, but the crucial ones are in the Tatarigoroshi and Minagoroshi chapters. Satoko's uncle comes home and Satoko's life becomes miserable. How can she be rescued from that situation? If this story was an exercise in murder, then the Tatarigoroshi chapter is the correct answer. Keiichi kills Teppei and hides his body well. There's a happy ending. But I didn't end the episode that way. Instead, I denied it with a bad ending. The resolution the worldview of Higurashi when they cry advocates is a non-violent one, with everyone united together. That is established in question chapters such as Onikakushi, Watanagashi, and Tatarigoroshi. In those worlds, when someone becomes suspicious about everything and worries about it alone, things get worse, and that leads to tragedy. The Mikashi chapter is the sublimation of that situation. On the other hand, when one talks to their friends, it's revealed that the causes of the tragedies are quite silly. That is indicated in the Sumihoboroshi and Minagoroshi episodes. In other words, you can see that in the worlds of Higurashi, anything can be overcome when people talk to each other and help one another. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen in reality. Helping each other creates friction, and oftentimes working alone is a lot simpler. However, we always hope that we can connect with other people and understand each other so that we can face any difficulty. In that sense, this world is a fantasy. That's right. In the worlds of Higurashi, there is one magical rule. That is to talk to others and accept help from them. Then you can defeat anything. With that, it is possible to make a miracle happen. If that could be cast into an absolute rule, it would be a sort of magical, systematic miracle. Just like what Hanyu and her friends said in the story. It's the worldview of Higurashi. That is the worldview of Higurashi when they cry. If you follow that rule and think about an ideal ending, I bet the first thing you'll think about is an ending where all the club members unite and defeat Takano. Actually, there are scenes in the Matsuri Bayashi chapter that affirm that sort of ending. However, at the same time, Takano is described as a very lonely person. By doing so, I raise a question about the resolution. Everyone else unites, defeats Takano, and makes her into a sacrifice. This is a happy ending. For everyone except Takano. It is a very popular style of story for the protagonists to unite together and sacrifice the antagonist. Aliens come to the Earth to invade us, so the world unites and defeats the aliens. Hooray for humans, and we must all get along. This is a very popular storyline all over the world. There are plenty of stories that use aliens, devils, or monsters as clear bad guys, and makes them into sacrifices. Two parties fighting with each other become allies once the third party shows up. Storylines like these are indeed exciting. By adding a sacrifice, differing parties unite and become allies. To create the situation, there has to always be the third party, sacrifice, as well. I'm sure many of those who create such stories must have already noticed that. We always add a third enemy that can't possibly unite with us. To make up with each other, we try to find a common enemy. Am I the only one who feels that describes our world today? No, you're not. In reality, this world belongs only to humans. There are no aliens or devils or monsters. So for us to find an enemy, we'll have to fight each other forever. To make up with each other, we need a new enemy, so we just end up fighting someone else. In this chapter of Higurashi, I declared that to be the demon of the world of a man. With these explanations of the worldview here in mind, do you wonder if the resolution to defeating Takano is in fact an ideal resolution of the Matsurubayashi chapter? That's right. It's basically the same foolishness found in Tatari Goroshi. According to that logic, the Minagoroshi chapter isn't the best resolution for the problems that surround Satoko either. Do you understand that? I think so. How can they make up with Takano? Good fucking question. You wouldn't suggest to make Tokyo into a new enemy and let the club members join with Takano, would you? Well, the thought definitely has crossed my mind, considering that they're the ones that basically instigated this whole shebang from behind the scenes. Although I wasn't thinking of doing it with Takano. If I continue to talk about this issue, I will probably end up mentioning something religious, so let me stop here. What kind of ending would be the best outcome following the worldview of Higurashi when they cry? Perhaps it's something better than the Matsurubayashi chapter. You can consider this a graduating question for Higurashi when they cry. Maybe I'll leave it as my final gift to those who enjoyed this tale for 4.5 years. Thank you for reading this extremely complicated story. Thanks for providing it to me. It was entertaining. In the end, what was this all for? If I were to put the answer to that question in one word, it would be entertainment. Well, consider me entertained. You done your job good. It's not important if you were able to answer the riddles. After all, if you enjoyed yourself, you won. I like being a winner. Ryukishi07 will continue to challenge you. And, Yumineko? Yes, I look forward to it. Higurashi, Nekrai, ends here, but I hope I get to see you again in a different world. What kind of work do I want to create next? I don't know, something about an island full of rich people? Maybe it's fitting to choose my next work from an infinite number of possibilities while listening to the chorus of the Higurashi. I want to express my gratitude to all the people who have supported me until today. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Ryukishi07. Well, finally here. After, about a year and a half now or something like that. I want to say it's been that long. But I know I started Higurashi in October of a year prior. You know what? Let me see something while I got my mind on it. Never mind, I was wrong about the month. I published my first episode of Higurashi on November 6th of 2019, so yeah, but still well over a year. I think this is the longest time I ever spent on a single game, and I'm still not done because I'm going to be doing because I'm going to be starting the console arcs after this. And, well, I don't know for sure how long that's going to take me. So for that reason, even though I'm very tempted to lay out my thoughts on the entirety of Higurashi that I've experienced from beginning to end here of the main story, I think, you know what, fuck it. I mean, all the console arcs are basically just what-if stories and whatnot, right? So, none of which were written by the man himself, Ryukishi07. So it's not like as though any of them are going to really have any real impact on anything that's happened in the main story. So, you know what? I will more or less just treat them as a separate thing from the whole main experience that I just got done with. And with that in mind, I will lay out my thoughts on the main story of Higurashi When They Cry. I was coming into this expecting a very simple, in a lot of ways, run-of-the-mill murder mystery story, the likes of which I've seen before in a few other anime series and whatnot that I vaguely recall from my years of life watching whenever I happen to stumble across them. Something that was decently complicated, but otherwise it would be a pretty decently entertaining little flick from start to finish. I wasn't expecting Higurashi to be as complex and, frankly, a lot more as complex in both story and tone and characters and pretty much everything, really, as it ended up being. Again, I came into this expecting, for the most part, a murder mystery horror story through and through, but a lot of the times it didn't really feel that way, anything like that to me at all. I mean, it only felt that way whenever the Watch Nagashi Festival ended and dead bodies basically hit the floor. Only then did things really start getting unsettling. Like, truly unsettling. But thinking about it now, I guess that was kind of the whole point, isn't it? None of these murder mysteries, all these tragedies that occurred in all the different chapters, from start to finish, were really supposed to be the ideal way in which these characters' story was supposed to play out. Far from it, actually. What I've seen here in Chapter 8 is basically the most ideal situation here that these characters could hope for, given the threats, the obstacles that they all faced, where everybody managed to get a happy ending. Although I still kind of debate that in Takano's case, but, well, yeah. That aside, yeah. Hinamizawa's complicated relationship with the rest of Japan, its and the rest of its culture following the end of World War II, the inner politics of the country itself here, and how it all in some way, shape, or form played a role within even the individual lives of within Hinamizawa and outside of it too. I know I'm kind of repeating myself here, but I wasn't expecting this whole thing to be as complex and intricately threaded as it was, if that makes any sense. Like a big old web full of different plot threads and character arcs all connecting and intersecting together around some core themes. I don't regret covering this thing at all. In fact, I'm very thankful to the viewers of mine who recommended that I give Higurashi a shot, because there was rarely a dull moment from start to finish. Tell you the truth, I was actually kind of surprised by how excited and how much I enjoyed this whole thing. Even before I reached the halfway point of Higurashi, it just at various points became a highlight of my day. When after I got off my day job or something and I got nothing going on, I hit the record button and I started a new episode of Higurashi. I mean, yeah, I was playing other games around the same time here that were also pretty fun in a lot of ways for me to cover too, but if I'm being honest, it was always Higurashi that I looked forward to the most out of everything that I covered, because I was just so ensnared, captivated by the ongoing mystery, trying to piece together every single little clue that I could to try to figure out just what the fuck was going on. In my opinion, I haven't been presented a story this fun to figure out since I played the Zero Escape series. It was just fun for me. Just giving me one hell of a giant freaking puzzle for me to solve. Making big leaps in logic at times here, just trying to come up with some scenario or another for one situation to the next that would just make some things sensible to me and how they could have played out. For example, figuring out the exact nature behind Toмотaki and Takano's deaths was perhaps one of the single biggest mysteries that this whole thing ended up presenting to me. That I was just putting everything under a microscope as much as possible, looking for even the tiniest of clues that could help me understand just what the hell happened to those two characters. Especially by the end of Chapter 2, when that irregularity that Ushi told Keiichi about Takano's time of death, and even even Mion's, presented itself. I just made it a mission, frankly, to not let a single tiny detail escape my notice, so I could just try as soon as I possibly could come up with some kind of plausible explanation that could explain this irregularity, and once I do that, figure out in turn what that would end up meaning for the rest of the story proper, and all the mysteries that it's presented to me. How does this one little thing tie into this mystery, or this one, or that one, so on and so forth. It was like working on a giant puzzle. With a picture that I wasn't even sure. Well, that with a big picture that you can make out of it that I wasn't even wasn't sure as to what it looked like. And yet, I tried to fit all the pieces together best I could, trying to make sense of everything I could possibly make of it. And then once I felt like I got an idea, a big idea of what was going on, by the end of Chapter 5, once I made that big theory regarding the Great Hinamizawa's disaster, everything from that point onward just became me just trying to fit in the remaining pieces here to try to iron out the holes in my theory, to sew them back together, to cover them up, or however you want to phrase it, really. Until everything fit perfectly, and I could see the clear picture behind this conspiracy for what it really was. And for the most part, I was happy to see that I managed to guess it all. I mean, yes, there was a few minor details here and there, and like one or two major ones that I was wrong about. But for the overall big nature of the conspiracy behind what was going on in Hinamizawa, I was very pleasantly and at the time horrifyingly terrified to discover that I was basically right. Once Takano basically had Tomitaki subdued and ejected towards the middle of chapter 7, and just basically having one theory after another confirmed back to back to back. There was one brief moment during all that where I felt like a wizard, in a sense, having figured most of this shit out. But it also made me wonder, like, for the average player who's played Higurashi, or watched the anime adaptation, or however they experienced the story, was the average person able to figure out all this shit here around the same area of the story, the same place of the story that I was at, basically towards the end of chapter 5? Or were most people able to figure all this stuff that I figured out sooner than me or later than me? Like, it's one of those little things that I'm just always curious about when it comes to mystery stories like these, is just comparing myself with how well I did trying to solve the mystery compared to what the average person had to do. Like, I don't know. It's probably just for my own ego's sake. I just want to see some kind of validation, see, like, hey, is my wit still sharp? Is my investigation skill as sharp as it was back in my school days when I used to live and breathe for this kind of shit? For mysteries to solve, whether they be murder mysteries or anything like that, because I was really into that shit in school. Something I'll have to look into later. I'm quite curious now that I'm thinking about it. Or I suppose I can always just go on a few fan sites or forums or whatever and just see what people say about this thing and that thing. I'll find out eventually over time. I know I will. Anywho, tangent aside, I know I've been a little all over the place, I think, but I guess in conclusion, Higurashi When They Cry just blew my expectations in almost every way that I could think of in regards to the kind of story it presented and everything that made it up. The characters, the characters, their respective arcs, their personalities, their complexity, all the different plot threads, and how intricately woven everything was, how nicely everything fit together. Yeah, I'm sure that after I do enough analysis on this story here, I might find a few weak spots here and there that I haven't already addressed before, that I may not have already addressed before in previous chapters, or even in previous episodes for that matter, whenever I felt like I noticed something anyway, which I felt was like once in a blue moon. But anyway, yeah, I'm sure I might find like one or two things here after looking over the whole plot again here that I will say, okay, maybe in retrospect here, this little area of the plot here might be a bit weak, or this one could have been done a bit differently in order to enhance this part of the plot or anything like that. But I can't see it being anything more than just minor nitpicks. Basically, what I'm saying is, I feel like that first impression, going from chapter 1 all the way to the ending here in chapter 8, Higurashi When He Cry's story is just masterfully told. Masterfully written. I gotta hand it to Ryukishi07. He really seems to know how to craft a really engaging plot. So, congrats, man. far as I'm concerned, Higurashi when they cry is money well spent on my part. Makes me more excited here to check out Yumineko when I can finally get around to that, of course. I still gotta get through the console arcs before I can do that, but make no mistake, once I'm done with those, I am moving straight on to Yumineko. So for those of you who have been with my Let's Play of Higurashi when they cry up to this point, well, number one, thank you for sticking with me all the way up to this point. And number two, I hope that you'll see that this is good news, because, well, there will be more when they cry in the future. It's only a matter of when, not if. I don't know what else I'll have to say about Higurashi once I get through the console arcs. I might have like one or two things I might have to say after I sit and think about the main story for a while, which I'm sure I'll have plenty of time to do as I'm going through the console arcs, and then just maybe air those new thoughts out as I'm also discussing my thoughts on the console arcs as I go through them. But I'd say for the most part, I pretty much voiced the majority of what I feel like I want to say on Higurashi, at least when it comes to the main story and the core concept behind it. And that, well, it exceeded my expectations in all the right ways, and I'm very happy to have checked this thing out. So, kind of makes me sad to see that the main story is now officially over, having said that. But that being said, I feel like I'm saying that a lot. But anyway, that being said, I think this is a story that's going to be sticking with me for a very long time. That I'll be thinking about all the events of for months to come. Even after I finish the console arcs, and I put Higurashi in its entirety behind me. But even while I'm going through the console arcs, I know I'm still going to be thinking about the main story a good bit. It was just a lot of fun playing this. Again, there were times throughout my whole Let's Play this whole series here where just doing a new episode of Higurashi was the highlight of my day. With that being said, I think I'm going to finally stop saying, number one, I think I'm going to stop saying that being said, and number two, I'm going to go ahead and end this final episode of the main story of Higurashi when they cry Kai here. Once again, for those of you who have been with me and been watching my Higurashi Let's Play series from Chapter 1 all the way up till now, thank you for sticking with me as long as you have. I hope that you'll continue to stick around as I check out the console arcs, and then after that, Yumineko. Otherwise, if not, then, well, I'm glad that I kept your attention as long as I did, and I sincerely hope you all had fun. Anyway, I guess that brings Higurashi when they cry, the main story, to a close. I will see you all next time for the beginning of the console arcs. Take care, guys.